Hi everyone, this is Sharon. Today I am here to share with you a flip through of a custom prayer journal. This journal was quite a few weeks in the making, and it's quite a special journal because Catherine came to me and asked if I would do a kind of a keepsake prayer journal for her, incorporating a number of items that have been collected by her family, her grandmother, her mother, and herself over the years. And I agreed to do that, and she sent me a large box full of all kinds of really wonderful things that I incorporated. I'll talk about some of those as we go through. This is one of those journals, if you plan on staying to the end, you might want to get a comfortable chair and something to drink because I think it's going to take a while to get through it. For the cover, first of all, the closure on the front, she wanted something that was flat and not too bulky, so I didn't do a ribbon with a bow or anything. I just used this buckle and wrapped this velvet trim around a couple of times. She'll have it sitting on a shelf in front of her, and so she wanted it to be easy to take on and off the shelf. So if we open the closure, I used a beautiful old book cover from 1851. It's got a little bit of marbled paper on the front that you can see. The rest I covered with this image, and this was, so the main story behind this journal is that her grandmother started collecting Madonna and child images shortly after World War II because her son died in World War II, and so she had quite an extensive collection of these. They were pulled out of the large format magazines of the probably 40s, 50s, 60s, as well as some really nice thick ones that you would get maybe from a museum or maybe some other place similar to that. So this is the one I chose for the front. I put some Florentine paper behind it, and then I trimmed it with this gold trim across the top here. The back, this is what the marbling looks like. It's quite worn. There's some nice leather on the sides. I just left that as is. And then the spine, of course, wasn't wide enough, so I had to rework that. It wasn't attached anyway. So I used some men's wool suiting for the back part of the spine. I added this strip of antique lace on there just to give it a little more interest. And then I did some slow stitching across here with these bars just to kind of emulate what you would normally see on an old book. And then I also added a little label on there as well. The spine is about 3.25 inches. And that's the outside. I guess as far as the signatures go, I put in 10 signatures to capture all of the items. I wanted to use as many as I could in the journal. It's still pretty manageable as far as handling it. It's not too overly large, but it's larger than the most of the ones that I work on. So for the inside covers, I decided to use these medieval manuscript images. So this is the one I chose for the front. And then on the inside spine, I used a really thick piece of linen. And then as far as digitals go, I incorporated some digitals along the way with antique book pages and Catherine's items. So I would say I mashed up lots of them like I usually do, but the two main kits that I used for the pages are this kit from TaylorMade Journals. It's called Gilded Leather Grunge. And it just has, I knew it was perfect for this journal because it has all these really deep colored kind of gilded leather images. And I printed those on it was like a presentation paper, and I used my laser jet, so it really gave it a little bit of a sheen, and I think that makes it look more like old leather. So I included one of these in each of the signatures. So on this first page, I've got one of Catherine's Madonna and child images. Actually, Joseph is on that one as well. So the Holy Family, I guess this one is. And I back that with some cheesecloth on that page. And I'll try to make sure I keep all of this in frame. On this page, I used this image of a chapel from Versailles, and these little lace pieces, Catherine told me, were lace pieces on her wedding shoes. And she asked me to incorporate those into the journal. And when I saw them, I immediately thought angel wings, of course. So I used this beautiful image of this angel and gave her the wings and put those behind there. Oh, I forgot to mention, I also used quite a few images from Medieval Mirage as well in here because Catherine wanted a medieval style journal. So she also had in her collection some tatting, laces, a few different kinds. So I've incorporated those throughout the book as well. And this is just one of the little images that she also had. On this page, I used an antique ledger sheet for the pockets, and then I created 2 pockets. I stitched down the center, and then the 2 inserts here are pages from a prayer book that she had, and it just included some really beautiful images, and so I just pulled a couple of those and inserted in those pages. On this side, again, some articles that I believe her grandmother probably had clipped from magazines. And so I took those were long and narrow, and they fit perfectly on this narrow page. So I made this fabric top tuck, embellished that a little bit, and just tuck those in there. Did a little stamping to embellish the tops of these pages. This image here, I've included a couple of these. They're from Dash of Dave. He's got some really deep, beautiful floral kits that I love to use when I'm using the darker colors. And I just did a punched edge on that sheet. And this is another one of the images from her grandmother. She also sent me some trims that belong to her grandmother that she believes she got back in the 1940s, and the roll that they were on said France, so they're some really pretty French trims, and I included that piece to embellish this image. Most of these images were quite large, so I had to go this way to get those in. I did leave some pages with some blank space. I didn't put in as many ephemera pieces as I normally do because Catherine wants some spaces where she can insert her own pieces of ephemera and memorabilia and keepsakes. So there are some spaces to write as well. Even under these articles, here's some more of those articles. She could write under here, and on the backs, I backed them as well. On this page, I created this pocket. It's a fabric pocket from some old linen, and I just used one of my stamps. It's a pattern stamp, and I stamped that just to make it look like old cloth, and then did some stitching on there. And then I've got this old medieval looking page behind it, and then in there, this is one of Catherine's pieces. And I just embellished some of these just to add a little interest, like this one I stenciled on the back, but you can still read it. Another of her images on one of those old leather images. It was very tricky. This is probably the trickiest book I've done because a lot of these images were quite fragile and cracked, so I had to make sure I reinforced them or back them with other papers so that they would hold up. Here I just added a little lace trim on that page. Here I've got a side tuck. And in there, again, I took one of her laces to embellish this card. And then did a little punching across the bottom of this one. Here I just created this very simple, small little belly band to hold this little piece. It's like a prayer card. Here I created a corner tuck and did some stenciling with paste on there, kind of trimmed up the edge. And then in that pocket, This is a journaling card that I made. It just gives her some writing space on the back. And here is a greeting card, Christmas card from her collection. And then on this side, I created a shallow pocket with this lace image. And then there were a number of newspaper articles also that were clipped in the box. This is one of those I just embellished a little bit. I also used some of this old French book page from the 1700s. This on the top is also a belly band. So if, Catherine, you wanted to put something larger on this page, you could tuck it under there as well as down in the pocket. Here's another one of the Madonna and child images. There were some that were sepia in color and others that were in full color. And then on these strings, I just added some little images from a Polish prayer book that she had. And then here I created this small little pocket and put in some cards. It looks like ones that Catherine had already done some aging and some work to, and I just left those as they were and tucked them in there. Here I ended up, because of the way I folded the papers to fit, I had this teeny little pocket on the bottom, so I took one of her teeny little images and stuck it in there. And then on this page, I've got this tuck on the bottom so that it can be used for large format items. There's these two belly bands that are velvet, and I just did a little bit of stamping on there. That one says Rejoice on the top. And then in that tuck, I've got a couple of religious images. Did some stenciling on the back of those, or stamping. Stenciling and stamping. And then I made this large tay. I just thought the pattern on there was so pretty, and inserted one of her Polish prayer book pages in there. Here I took this beautiful lacy gauzy fabric and just created a fabric flip with that and did some slow stitching across the top. On this side, I created a top tuck with some Florentine paper, trimmed that up a little bit, and added one of her images in there. It's quite large. And then this is actually a digital from Raindrop Lila. And then one of Catherine's images. Here I just added some wool fabric underneath as a ribbon under this wax seal. On this side of the page, I've got a vellum belly band, so something could be tucked under there. And on this side of the page, I created this, I guess you could call it a belly band. I just tacked it down on the edges. It's the image of this angel, but then I was able to tuck in there this three-dimensional wooden cross. She had several of these she received from her mother, and so I used a couple of those in here, but it's kind of thick. So I attached it with a ribbon so it wouldn't get lost, and it can be tucked in there. And then I've also got an item that Catherine probably had made with a quote on the back. I'm just going to stick those in there, and then there's some music paper on the back of that. Here on this side of the page, I clipped on a couple of items from her collection. This one I just stitched onto some handmade paper so it would have a little bit more of a substantial back, and then I created a pocket on this side, did a little stamping on there, and then inserted one of her cards in there as well. And then to embellish the page in the back, I've got this embossed piece of cardstock. I better clip these back in so I don't lose them. Okay, on this side of the page, There's a rather large image that I incorporated of hers, and it was a newspaper article, so, or from a newspaper magazine. It was quite thin, so I did back it with this vintage map image. And this is a map of the Middle East, kind of the area, the Holy Land area. So it kind of outlines Holy Land today and Holy Land in biblical times. And then this strip right here is the description for the image on the other side. So it does say December 23rd, 1945. Probably came out of a magazine. And then the back of that page is actually a page from an 1800s religious book. It was a large format one, which I used in several spots in here just because the pages are quite large. Okay, on this side, again, I took some of that old linen and stamped on it to create a pattern. And then in there, I inserted one of my own holy cards. And it's one of my favorites. It's got this really intricate punched lace around the outside. And it's a French one. Got this little paper lace doily in there, just to kind of break up some of the images. And then in the center, I've got this image. Catherine said I didn't have to use all 900 of her images in her collection, but I think I maybe used 899. I tried to use every single one. In the center of every signature, I tried to pick some of the really nice large ones. This is from that 1800s religious book that I have. I think it was on the life of Christ. Some really pretty pages in there. On this page, Catherine gave me some of this gold ribbon that she had, and I just incorporated that. And there were some holes on this music sheet already in there. Probably came out of a book, so I just used those holes to tie in this piece of ribbon. And then I just did a little faint stamping on that page. I'm just gonna find something that I can use to put in my pockets so I can show you where the pockets are. So this is an old linen doily, and I just left that as a place where you can put something in. This is a medieval mirage image. I love the colors in there. Here's another old ledger sheet. I like using those in these old books. And then on this side, I just trimmed it up a little bit. And then in there, I created this little journaling spot where I also clipped on this from her collection. This is what that side looks like. Again, used some of her lace to embellish. Here I used this fabric. I love this fabric. I only have a little bit left of that. It's like a tapestry fabric, but it's got the really pretty deep colors that I love, and I know Catherine loves as well. Added some of her lace on there, and then in that pocket, I put one of her prayer cards, and then I also added this postcard. Thought that was really beautiful. From Vienna. On this side of the page, I just use this embellished piece that can be used as a tuck spot, and it's a double tuck spot, so you could get something in this front piece or in the second piece. And that's true on this side as well. And then this black and white image, I just did a little punching on the edge. And then on this side, I took this card and did a stamp on the bottom of that, and then used that as a tuck spot. And then I created this tag. And then on the back, I've got this tuck spot. So again, it can be used as a place to put something. I also added, Catherine had quite a few medals in her collection, so I've used those throughout as well. This side of the page also has another side tuck, so that's a nice big area to tuck something. Here I used a doily with these pretty colors, and that's just in there as a flip. And then on this side of the page, I've got a pocket, and I created this piece. Got this image on the back, and it's sort of like a mini document keeper. I just used one sheet of an old book page, and then I thought on the back I did a little bit of light stenciling, but it could be used for writing. One of her images, and I just kind of back that, you know, with this lace image. I used quite a few of these. These are from GT Designs. I love her lace kit. I use it a lot because the colors are so pretty. And then again, one of her little images, I just kind of did a little cluster up there with some laces and paper, and then that image. This is a flip out. And then on there, I added some trim and a wax seal. And then I took one of her images on this side and created a pocket with it. So it's a really large format pocket that you can stick quite a few nice big things in there. I've got a large journaling card in there. I guess it's a journaling card, or maybe it's just a mini tablet. I trimmed it at the top with this trim, and then I kind of put in there some decorative papers along with some of her Polish prayer book items. So I left some blank pages that she can use for writing. And then in this image on the back, added a stamp on here. Now, I just put these in because I can't create a journal with just leaving all the pockets blank. But Catherine, you certainly, as you know, can take all of my items out and put your own in any of these pockets. Here again, I just embellished the page a little bit with some book spine and another wax seal. On this side of the page, I took this vintage envelope, trimmed it up a little bit on the front, put these beautiful angel images on the back. And that one I just left blank, but it's a place where you, again, can tuck some things into. And then this is some old ledger page. And then I used that to back this image, another quite large image, Mary and Jesus. I just added a little trim on there. Let's see. Okay, this page I've got to tuck. I have to remember what I did here. Reinforce some of these pages with some washi tape just to reinforce. And then this is one of her cards that I used as a side tuck. And then behind there, I just had to stick a couple of pretty things. This is a wax piece of paper. Again, using some of her trim. And then I added behind there this Florentine paper, and that kind of shows through. And then this sheet. This sheet I ironed, and it had a little bit of wax on it yet, so it gave it this really kind of grungy parchment look, which I like. Here I just kind of ruffled up some of her ribbon and staple that to the top of this image. That folds out. Got that clipped. So if we fold it out, you can see the full image. And then I've attached some of this old antique music paper. So it's a flip out where you could definitely tuck some things in on each side. And this is what the back side looks like. I just got the script image on there. And then here is one of her cards. So I just use that as a tuck spot. And then this is another page that's embellished that kind of covers that. So that goes like that, and then this flips in. On this side of the page, I've got this linen-y belly band where you could tuck something in. Another one of her images that I've got on the grungy leather. And then on this side of the page, I've got this top tuck. It's kind of a double tuck. I've got this lace on there so you could put something under there. Plus I've got this old, I think it's a book cover of some sorts from the 1940s. And then behind there, I love this image of these butterflies. You can see them peeking through. And then behind that tuck, I just put this is another sheet from an old religious book. I love the fonts and the script on there. It's extremely fragile and cracks, so I don't know how it will hold up, but I did back it with this avocado dyed paper. Again, it's just a nice place that could be used for tucking things or to write. Here is, I've got a side tuck in there, and then this journaling card. I love the scripty writing on there. And then I've got these angel images on the back. I probably am not adequately showing you all of these medieval mirage pages, but hopefully you can see them. On this side, I took one of her cards. It's probably a postcard. I don't know if that's yours or mine. I don't remember. But anyway, I just stitched it on either side onto, this is coffee dyed paper. And then that creates a really thick, wide belly band. And then on this side of the page, I just clipped on a couple of items, one of Catherine's cards, and then I made this journaling card. She had some old Florentine paper in her box, just little snippets and pieces that look like they were ripped off of something, and so I've used those you'll see throughout the book as well. Tried to incorporate as much as I could, Catherine. Here's another beautiful image of hers. Again, I used some of that Florentine paper. Here I created the side tuck. I took one of her cards and punched it with a slot punch, and then took this ribbon and wove it through there just to embellish it a little bit. And then on this side of the page, I have a little bit of sari trim. I had to use that because the colors just look so nice with this side of the page. And then in there, I took one of her prayer book images or pages, and that had all the same colors too, so it all coordinated quite well. Here I took some Florentine paper that Catherine sent me, used that as the pocket. She also had this glassine bag in there. It looks like it came from Rome, so it was probably some type of a keepsake from a vacation or a trip or something. So I adhered that to the pocket, but just left it open behind to use as a tuck spot. And then in there I created this little fold out. This is one of the magazine images I think that her grandmother had clipped. And so I just tucked that in there. And then in the pocket, I made this journal card. This is some stenciling with paste on the back. This side of the page, I've got a Roxy Creations image. I love that, the old building and lantern. And here I have this wide velvet ribbon, and I embossed that with my iron and a stamp. And then in there I created this little secret pocket and tucked in this little coin that she wanted me to incorporate in her journal. So I think it's pretty safe in there, Catherine. I tuck it in the bottom and the top so that it's in there nice and snug. I brought that up and around this side of the page, added some extra old fabric on there, and then sewed on one of her medals. And then on this side of the page, I just created these two corner pockets from some Florentine paper. And then in there, I inserted, this is probably the largest image, I think, or one of the largest that she sent me. And so I just backed that. It was pretty cracked pretty well, so I just punched it top and bottom and backed it with some craft paper. So that should hold up. On this page, she had a number of these kind of, I don't know what you call them. They're sort of like fabric. They've got the stitching across crosses. And she asked me to include at least one of those. So I've got that on that page. And then on this page, I've got another one of her cards. Oops, did I skip a page? Yes, I did. All right, let's go back. Okay, this page, again, this beautiful image from Dash of Dave. I can't tell you how much I love his kits. Up here I've got some cheesecloth that I just stitched on with some slow stitching, book spine part, and some really old paper that I took out of an old trunk that I have. And then on this side of the page, I took one of Catherine's cards that she inherited. It's got a little note on the back. And I just added a little bit of slow stitching. I was into slow stitching on that page, just to embellish the front a little bit. All right, now we can go into this page. I've got this little card of hers clipped on there. And then I thought it would be fun to put this. A lot of times you see these family record pages in old Bibles, so I used that on that page. And then on this side, this is an envelope she had in her box, so I just embellished it with this texture paste. And in there, I just tucked in a couple of items that she already had done up. I just embellished them a little bit, added some trim, velvet ribbon, and this medallion, and some of her beautiful old lace on there. They've got quotes on the back. And they fit perfectly in this little bag. Here is another one of her images. I just added this little velvet bow on the bottom. And I left it open on the top half, so again, it's a nice big tuck spot or pocket that can be used to put things. On this page, I folded this little piece up on the bottom, and it just creates the smallest little pocket. So if you have something small, you could tuck it right down in there. And then on the top, I took another one of the bags she had in her box. I'll take out what I have in there. And I folded it in half and stitched it. And then I added a piece of linen in there and just stitched that linen with a stamp of a cross inside the envelope, so it kind of peeks through. I really debated putting this item in here because it's quite thick, but it's just so adorable, and it was one of the things I liked in her box, so I did incorporate it. I just added a little gilding around the outside. It's a little prayer book the way it looks to me. And then I took some of that really pretty kind of lacy fabric and just wrapped it around and used an old rusty pin to cinch it up so it does keep the book closed. On this side of the page, I've got this pocket, and then in there, I've got just a little prayer book that or a prayer kind of, it's not really a book, it's just like a little pamphlet that she had in her box of goodies. And then I created this journaling card to go in there and used some of her prayer book pages for that. And then I have this little tab that dangles down. I did some stamping on that linen, and I added a piece of lace and one of her medals I just hung on there with a pin. It just kind of hangs over. And then on this side of the page, we've got one of her beautiful images. And I just did this little fabric tab with her ribbon to go around the page. Here, I brought it all the way across the page. And I think it was serendipity because her ribbon exactly matched this old antique button that I have. I just love these. They're little metal strips that go across, and there's all these little curly metal things around the outside of the button. But I thought that fit perfectly on there. And that's a little shallow pocket, and in there I just created this envelope. I had this old piece of, this is a piece of leather from this 1700s book. It's a part of the cover and it was all peeling off. It looked like it had maybe been in a fire or something, but I used that for the tab on here. I thought this was a kind of medieval looking image, and I just embellished it a little bit and tied it up. And it's empty, so Catherine can put whatever she likes in there. On this page, I just embellished it a little bit and left some writing room with some washi tape. And this is another piece of trim that Catherine had sent me from her grandmother's collection. That was the one from the 40s. It's a French trim. It feels like wool. I think it's like a woven wool. On this side of the page, I just clipped a couple of items that I created. This is probably my favorite Graphics Fairy image. It's on their freebie site. I just love it. It's of this nun in these beautiful blue tones on this bench. I added that to the front of this old vintage envelope. And the envelope I left empty. It does open on the side, so you can use it to tuck something in. And then I just added this really old piece of French paper, and I don't know what the date is on it. I'm going to guess early 1800s probably. On this side of the page, I just embellished with one of Catherine's cards. It's got the image from the shroud on there. Some more medieval paper. And then on this side is one of her images. And then on this side of the page, I attached another fabric flip. This is from a 1920s minister's vestment. And it's got some fringe on the bottom and some really pretty trim on there. And then on the top, I just embellished with this lace trim up there. And then on this side of the page, again, I've got a side tuck, so something rather large can be tucked in there. Here's a crocheted cross that Catherine had sent, and I just attached some of her trims and one of her medals to this pin. And then I love this medieval mirage image with the falcon on there. And so I just took some, this is probably my favorite velvet color that I have. It's this kind of, I don't know, turquoisey green color. And I just kind of ruffled that up a little bit along the page and then added some other lace trim on there. On this page, I clipped in just a piece of sheet music that I kind of gilded with some gold around the outside. She can use that however she likes. And then this is one of her cards. And then on this side, it's kind of a tall, narrow pocket. I thought it was the perfect spot. I put one of her cards in there to add one of these Women of Antiquity from Mrs. Coggs. I haven't used these in a while, so I've got a couple of these in here. I just made this tag and put this little yo-yo on the top, I guess it's called. Backside. And then I just did the stamp of the cross in the back. Here I just added some lace trim and put this across. Inside image. I cut the image out on the top and then just backed it to this paper and then did some stenciling across the bottom. Here's our other Lady of Antiquity. Just created a little fabric tab on the side here. This I left pretty much open for writing. One of Catherine's images. This is a rather large pocket again out of this doily fabric. And then on this side of the page, I love this blue in this gilded leather page. This is one of Catherine's cards, greeting cards, and I just use that as the corner tuck then. And then in there, I've got this music paper from a book that she had sent over to me. So I just stuck that in there. Here I added this fabric along the side of the tuck, and then there I made this large journaling card. And this back side has a pocket, so something can be tucked in there. And then on this side of the page, I've got almost an invisible tuck. I use this map fragment and just attached along the side, so you can tuck something in there. I noticed that my name's on here. I just noticed that now. Here I took a treated napkin and just backed it with one of her prayer book pages, a little snippet of that on there to add some interest. And then on this page, I just added this little sari trim as the tab to open the image, and you'll see that this is the original that she sent me, and Our Lady, Mary, and Jesus are on the front. That's a copy. This is a piece of old music, an image that I made into a belly band. And Catherine, you'll recognize that that's your crow. And then I love this medieval image. And then on this side, I tucked in this journaling card. And this one has a tuck across the top. So again, many places to put things. On this side of the page, I took one of the prayer book, several sheets of it, and I stapled them together. I embellished the front with this image, and then I created this little tab on the side so the pages can tuck in there so they don't flop around. But you can open them to see the prayers and the beautiful images. And then the last sheet, I only tacked down on 3 sides, so this would make a rather large pocket here where you could use to put something inside. And then these can just tuck back in there. Another beautiful sepia image. So this page, Catherine, was a bit of an experiment, and I really do like how it turned out. If it ends up to be too chunky or too bulky or bothersome for you, you'll have to clip these out. But I wanted to use as many of her metals as possible. And when I looked at this page image of the jewels, I thought these 3 fit just perfectly on these backside images. And so I added them in here, and I just taped them on with some old tape. And then of course I glued the tape down, so I think they're going to stay there pretty well. And then I left enough chain on these so you could look both at the back side and the front side. But I just thought they looked nice on that page. I think once, you know, if the book is closed mostly, they'll be fine there. On this side, I created this large corner pocket from this Florentine paper, and then I just trimmed that up a little bit, and then in there I've got this medieval image, and I just created this little journaling spot and added some more of Catherine's trim. And this is a page from a really large old German Bible. I do believe this one is from probably the mid-1800s. Another one of her newspaper images, and I just stitched that to the page and backed it with some of this Florentine paper. And then this was the caption for the article, so I just backed that with some of the ribbon that she had. A little bit of her trim down there, and I just added in a little embellishment in the front of that. Here I created a pocket with some of her magazine images, articles, and then in there I created this tag. This was let's see, was this one of yours, Catherine? I don't remember. But I just put this finish on it to give it kind of a lacquer look on the outside. No, I think this is a digital. And then on the back side, I've got this image that I waxed, and that flips up. And there's a German book page under there. And I just kind of left that as a place again to tuck something if you wanted to. Here I created this very narrow belly band with this trim image. Added some of her ribbon. And then tucked one of her cards in there. Again, another image of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. And then I have this journaling spot that I kind of tucked over the side of the page. It's another vintage envelope. I stitched it along the side so it was not too deep and it would fit decent on the page. And then it can be opened, if I can get it open. And then I just added some of her prayer book images on the inside. And then I did a little bit of slow stitching along the edges to add some interest. On this side of the page is another pocket that I created. I don't have anything in it. So you can add something there. And then I clipped over the side of that page one of her cards. And then I also created this card. Added a little trim to that and some writing space on the back. And then on this side of the page, I've got, this is the cover of one of her prayer books, the back cover, and this is the front cover. So I just took that and wrapped it around the page so that it would create some large pockets again, and stitch that down. And then I just added a little bit of lace trim on there, a little bit of slow stitching. And then on this side, I added this dark green velvet strip and some lace on there. And this is another one of Catherine's wooden crosses that she received from her mother. And then this flips out, and this is one of her images. And believe it or not, that takes us to the end of the journal. And this is another medieval manuscript image that I put on the back. So I hope you like that, Catherine. I really enjoyed making this. It was something different. It was a bit of a challenge using someone else's items, and a little scary because you don't want to ruin anything and you want to do it right for the family. So I hope you enjoyed that, and until next time, bye-bye.